Welcome back to my podcast, dear listeners. We are on episode 3. I am a battered wife, and this is my story. To give you context, dear listeners, I have been telling you about my background. Last week, I told you the story of my maternal grandpa, Nana Ji, and my mom. Today, I will tell you my dad's side of the story. Dad is the youngest of 8 siblings. Grandpa, my dad's dad, Ishar, belonged to a zamindar family. When he got married, that is Ishar, the family needed a bahu, that's a daughter-in-law, who could handle the entire workload of the farming household. Unfortunately for Rami, the wife of Ishar, within a year of the wedding, she developed a disorder wherein her eyesight started deteriorating rapidly. Ishar's parents needed someone who had all her faculties intact and could contribute with speedy hard work, which Rami could no longer do with her failing sight. There was a discussion, and the elders decided to get Ishar remarried so that the new daughter-in-law could pick up the slack. This obviously meant that poor Rami would be at the mercy of her husband's new wife. Rami's future looked bleak. Ultimately, it was decided that it was in everyone's best interest to have Rami's sister marry Ishar. That way, Rami would always be taken care of, considering sisters loved each other, and thus, without really wanting to, Ishar found himself with 2 wives. Eventually, my dad Ajay was born to Rami as the last child of that generation. I hear that when my dad was born, he didn't breathe for an hour. He was blue, and the family wondered whether he would survive. But survive he did, of course. The family's farm was close to the banks of a river. I'm not sure which one. And Dad tells me of a time when 5 years in a row, the swollen, flooded banks wreaked havoc in the family's fields, destroying all the crops. This severely affected the family's financial standing, and they were barely making ends meet. Some years passed, and Dad did well academically. He then decided he wanted to apply for a diploma in engineering at Thapar University. This would mean living away from the family. The family was not happy as they preferred having all hands on the farm. Also, what about the fees? At this time, an older brother from the second mother, who had completed his graduation and was a school teacher, intervened and asked that the parents allow Ajay to pursue the diploma. This brother was Ranjit, who went on to do a PhD later on, and he became the school principal. As a student at the university, Dad, that is Ajay, recalls living in a rented room with 3 other boys. During lunch break, they would cycle back to their room and cook sabji, roti within minutes, have their lunch, and then cycle back. Dad also conducted tuition classes for some high school and college kids, going to their houses and teaching them after hours. Once he got his diploma, Dad was commissioned as an army officer during the emergency commission. Till date, we receive some letters addressing Dad as Captain Ajay Singh. Meanwhile, Dad's other brothers, other than Ranjit, the school teacher, remained more or less unlettered. They did go to school, but one could barely call them intellectuals. This is where Mom comes into the story. Mom was blossoming into a beautiful, tall teenager at the time. She had been hearing that the family was considering getting her engaged, and she very much liked the family that she thought she was getting married into. Now, dear listener, you could appreciate that I can only piece together bits of the story that are not really clear to me, as I do not know the inner workings of all the minds involved in weaving this story. For some reason, that did not happen. Mom did not get engaged to the person that she thought she was getting engaged to. Instead, Mom found out that she was betrothed to a different person who was unlettered and certainly did not come from a family that she appreciated. That was my dad's family. So Mom put her foot down and refused to marry this person. This person was actually my dad's older brother, Seb. He was about 10 years older than Ajay. The elders had worked out an arrangement wherein Mom's older sister was to marry Dad's brother, Ranjit, the school teacher. So the family thought that they could ask for another daughter for one of their other sons. So that was the unlettered one. He was not very educated and 10 years older than my dad. When Mom protested and refused to marry Seb, they came up with the idea of getting her married to Ajay, who is my dad. Ajay was away serving with the Indian Army at the time these decisions were taken. Understandably, this came as a surprise to Ajay, my dad, and he was none too happy with this arrangement. Plus, I can only guess the grudge he might have had towards Mom for leaving his brother Seb high and dry. After the wedding, Dad went back to work, and it was a few years before Mom joined him. When Mom got pregnant for the first time, Dad panicked. He was still on active duty with the Indian Army. He told Mom that the rules of employment dictated, the rules of his contract dictated, that he was not even supposed to be married at the time, much less have a baby. He convinced her to try a secret abortion, taking the village nurse into confidence. It had been past the 5th month now, and the abortion almost cost Mom her life. This baby had been a boy. It was big enough by the 5th month that they knew the gender. And Mom brought this up many times during our life, reminding us that had she given birth to a baby boy, none of us would have existed. She never did forgive us for being female, but more about that later. Until then, this is the story of my life, every word true. Take care of yourself, dear listeners, stay healthy, and I will see you next time with another episode. Bye.